Welcome to the deep dive. We're plunging into a stack of sources that detail, well, one of the most chaotic, high-stakes fantasy plots from the world of Faerûn. It's a setting currently defined by cataclysm, ancient power, and just profound, pervasive loss.
Yeah, we are jumping right into the aftermath of the spell plague.
Mm-hmm.
For listeners maybe new to this era, just imagine a magical blue fire that didn't just kill mages, it fundamentally warped reality.
Warped reality, how so?
Well, it reshaped geography, it changed the very nature of magic itself, and it left the land seeded with unpredictable horrors.
Yeah.
It was. It was a true apocalypse, really.
Right, and politically, this left a huge vacuum, didn't it? Filled by some truly terrifying contenders.
Oh, yeah. We're not talking about your usual squabbling kings here.
No, we've got undead armies massing in Thay under the Lich King Sastam.
Powerful figure.
Very. Then you've got insidious, plotting dark elves down in the Underdark. Always busy.
Uh-huh. And the abolithic sovereignty, that inhuman slave master collective. Shudder. Exactly. But maybe the biggest current existential threat is the Empire of Netheril. The Shadowvar, right? Floating above Faerûn in their terrifying flying fortress.
Flying fortress. Okay, so our mission today, for you listening, is to track how all these massive geopolitical pressures suddenly converge, how they slam into the personal quests of legendary heroes and anti-heroes, too, all focused on one crucial ancient site.
The ruined dwarven city of
Gauntlgrym. And the opening move in this whole world-spanning crisis involves a monumental act of deception. It's pretty bold.
It really is. The story kicks off with King Bruenor Battlehammer. He's the, visionary leader of the Silver Marches. And he had just secured this precarious, absolutely essential truce with the Orc Kingdom of Many Arrows.
A truce that was probably shaky at best, I imagine.
Extremely shaky. So to avoid giving the Orcs any excuse whatsoever to break that peace, Bruenor executed this really elaborate plan. He faked his own death.
Faked his death, wow.
Yeah, the sources even detail the specific help he needed. Nanfudel the Gnome, the Orc Priestess Jessa, and Puent the Battle Rager. They were all in on it.
That's fascinating. So he secures this major political victory through, total deceit. But the irony, right, is his reason for leaving Mithril Hall wasn't political duty at all, was it?
Not even close. He abandoned his throne, left his successor, King Banach Bronenville, to rule, all to pursue a deeply personal quest, a quest that completely by accident becomes this world-saving mission.
So what was driving him personally?
It was twofold, really. First, finding the lost dwarven masterpiece, Gauntlgrym, a legend among dwarves. And second, seeking some form of, closure. Maybe reunion with the spirits of his lost loved ones, Catti-brie and Regis. They were casualties of all the recent chaos.
Catti-brie and Regis. Right, so he was looking for peace, basically.
He was looking for peace, yeah. But instead, he found war. A big one.
And Bruenor's emotional journey, it seems like it's immediately mirrored by his traveling companion, the famous Drizzt Do'Urden.
Absolutely. Drizzt is suffering from just crippling loss since the cataclysm. He explicitly notes the world has grown darker by far. But the real insight for the sources is how he internalizes that darkness. It's a huge shift for him.
How so?
He realizes he's no longer fighting for the light, or to protect the innocent in the same way. He now kind of welcomes the darkness, finds purpose only in the visceral nature of combat.
That's unsettling for Drizzt. The sources really drive this point home, don't they? Describing him practicing fighting imaginary opponents with, shocking violence.
Yeah, it's intense. And it leads him to openly question his own identity. Is this embrace of conflict just an addiction? A coping mechanism for grief he can't handle?
Or is it something deeper, his drow heritage finally bubbling up?
Exactly. That's the fear, isn't it? Is he succumbing to what he's always fought against? It makes you wonder if, trauma can mimic inherited evil.
A really challenging question for his character. So while these heroes are grappling with internal darkness, the external threat is literally looming overhead. The Netherese.
Right, those Shadowvar and the flying fortresses. They're being led by this incredibly brutal tiefling warrior, Heroism.
Ruthless is one thing, but the sources point out that even his own top assassin, Barabbas the Grey, fears and distrusts him deeply.
That's a key detail. That internal fracture within the Shadowvar leadership. It suggests their empire, for all its terrifying power, is actually pretty unstable. That might be their Achilles heel.
Okay, and tying into that weakness, we meet a crucial wild card. The elf warrior, Dahlia Sinfell.
Dahlia, yes. She's initially working for the bad guys, essentially. The Thayan agents of Sastam, specifically a mage named Salora Salm.
But she's not just some henchwoman.
No way. Dahlia is formidable, wields the Koza's needle, this breakstaff weapon, highly decorated warrior. But her loyalty isn't really to Tay. It's fueled by pure personal vengeance against Herzog Olenja.
Olenja, why him?
He murdered her mother. So her motivation is intensely personal.
Got it. So we have a dwarf king seeking lost peace, a dark elf battling his own soul, and this vengeful elf warrior working for evil mages, all unknowingly converging on the same ancient city, driven by grief and loss.
Precisely. And that location, Gauntlgrym, holds a truly devastating secret.
Okay, let's unpack that. That brings us to the core mechanism of the entire plot, doesn't it? What exactly is the secret of Gauntlgrym? It was the pinnacle of Delzian dwarf civilization, right?
It wasn't just a city. It was basically a power plant, an incredibly dangerous one. Gauntlgrym was powered by a captured fire primordial.
A fire primordial, explain that.
Think of a primordial as, well, a fundamental godlike elemental force. Raw creation. They contained an engine of infinite, incredibly volatile energy.
They trapped an elemental god. Wow.
Yeah. And Bruenor, when he sits on this magical throne in the audience chamber, he gets a vision of the past. It reveals the entire complex containment system. He learns the city was built on a pact with the powerful wizards of the Host Tower of the Arcane.
The Host Tower wizards.
Okay.
And how did they manage to contain something like that?
Ingeniously, actually. They devised the perfect counterbalance. Water elementals. These elementals were channeled through specific magical bowls placed in 9 different alcoves, like tendrils spreading through the city. The water harnessed and contained the fiery entity.
Fire contained by water. A delicate balance, I imagine?
Extremely delicate. And this balance is precisely what the Thyans under Sastam intended to exploit.
Right, you mentioned them earlier. Salor, Solm, and Dahlia were their agents on the ground.
Exactly. Their plot wasn't about conquering Gauntlgrym itself. It was about destabilizing that containment. Their goal, unleash the fire primordial.
Why? What would that achieve?
To create what they called a dread ring.
A dread ring. Sounds bad.
It is. Think of it as a magical weapon of mass destruction. By unleashing the primordial, they'd obliterate the entire region. A wide circle of devastation, designed specifically to wipe out their main rivals, the Netherese Shadowvar. It's calculated annihilation for strategic gain.
Utter devastation as a political tool. Grim. But here's where the tragedy really compounds, isn't it? Because the trigger wasn't some master villain pulling the strings.
No, it was almost accidental as an unwitting hero. The dwarf Athrogate. He's a companion of the mercenary Jarlaxle Bainra.
Jarlaxle's companion. Okay, what did Athrogate do?
He arrives, already emotionally compromised, grieving, confused, and he pulls the main lever for the containment system. He tragically believed the ghosts of his ancestors were ordering him to do it. Protect the city, maybe? But he got it wrong.
Oh no. So pulling the lever.
Released the water elementals, broke the containment, freed the primordial's overwhelming power. That act starts the seismic chaos, the rumbling, the imminent catastrophe.
And the sources emphasize Athrogate's guilt afterwards, right? Crushed by the realization he basically destroyed his ancestral homeland.
Completely consumed by guilt. It's a powerful example of how good intentions, mixed with grief and chaos, can lead to absolute devastation.
And this wasn't even the first time the primordial caused trouble, was it? The sources connect this back further.
Right. They reveal that the primordial's initial stirrings, even while contained, caused the eruption of Mount Hotenau about a decade earlier.
Mount Hotenau, near Neverwinter.
The very same. That volcanic eruption led to an avalanche of fiery rock that buried and nearly destroyed the thriving city of Neverwinter. So this wasn't just a natural disaster of the past, it was the direct consequence of this unstable entity slumbering nearby.
And that disaster created its own problems for Neverwinter, didn't it?
It did. An entirely new enemy for the region, the ash zombies, or dustwalkers, animated corpses of those buried in the ash. So the heroes, when they eventually get involved in Neverwinter's fate later, they aren't just fighting a future cataclysm, they're fighting the literal fallout of its history.
Okay, so the stakes are now at their absolute peak. Total regional destruction is imminent. How do the heroes react? An alliance forms.
A very fragile, very unlikely alliance starts to come together. Jarlaxle Bainra, the resourceful Drum mercenary, acts fast. He's always got an angle. He leverages his connections specifically, gets the key knowledge on the containment rituals from his archmage brother, Gronf Bainra.
Gronf, right. Jarlaxle knows how to put it back together.
He knows the theory. So Jarlaxle leads Drizzt, Bruenor, and the guilt-ridden Athrogate back into the heart of Gauntlgrym to try and re-trap the primordial.
And what about Dahlia? She was with the Thyans.
This is crucial. The sources emphasize Dahlia Sinfel's sudden shift. She realizes Salora's plan, the Dread Ring, means total ruin. which, importantly for her, would prevent her personal vengeance against Delaney. He'd just be vaporized with everyone else.
Ah, so her personal vendetta overrides her mission for Tay.
Exactly. She chooses revenge over global destruction. So she betrays the Tyans and joins the heroes. She offers her specific knowledge of her former allies, their plans, their strengths. It's an alliance forged entirely out of circumstance, necessity, and frankly, overlapping self-interest.
Okay, so the team is assembled. How do they actually go about recontaining this thing?
Guided by Bruenor's ongoing visions from the magical throne, the team begins this desperate race against time. They have to rush through the ruined, shaking city, placing those magic bowls back into the 9 different alcoves, the tendrils of the system, all while activating the water elementals, trying to restore the balance amidst these violent tremors rocking the entire mountain.
Literally racing against a geologic clock. But the Dians aren't just going to let them fix it, are they?
Not a chance. Salora Solm sends a massive counterstrike team, led by the fierce vampire Dorcre.
A vampire, great.
And the increasingly unstable Lich, Valindra Shadowmantle.
Valindra. She was mistress of the host tower, the wizards who built the containment.
The very same. Now she's fully serving Sastam. And she demonstrates terrifying power right there in the audience chamber. She uses a ruby scepter to summon a pit fiend named Beeltamatush.
A pit fiend. Okay, for those listening, how bad is that?
Very bad. Think high-ranking general from the Nine Hells. This isn't some minor demon. This is an entity of immense strategic power and raw evil.
Yeah.
Summoned right into the middle of everything.
Wait a minute. So the climax of this world-saving plot, with all the high magic and politics, it boils down to a dwarf who just chugged a magic flagon of Gutbuster Ale.
Yep, Gutbuster Ale.
Fighting a literal high-ranking devil. That kind of sums up the incredible, slightly absurd tone of these sources, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Bruenor, having found the legendary forge of Gauntlgrym itself, gains incredible strength.
Yeah.
Both from the ancient magic of the forge and that potent ale, he just wades right in and engages the pit fiend in this brutal head-to-head melee.
Does he stand a chance?
He takes devastating hits. I mean, it's a pit fiend. But his raw, forge-fueled power, maybe boosted by the Gutbuster, it's just too much. Bruenor ultimately defeats the devil, drives his axe right into the fiend's head, and hurls the massive creature down into the primordial pit below the forge.
Wow. Okay. An incredibly fitting, dramatic end for the devil. But the primordial itself is still loose, right? The containment isn't finished.
Correct. The battle with the pit fiend is won. But the final lever hasn't been pulled. The true recontainment still needs to happen. And that requires the final sacrifice.
Sacrifice?
Who? Thibbledorf Puent, the Battle Rager. Remember him? Part of Bruenor's fake death plot.
Puent, yeah, the Battle Rager. What happens?
He reappears near the final lever location. But he's been mortally wounded earlier by the vampire, Dorcre. He's dying.
Oh, man.
He drags himself to that final control point, and in his last moments, Puent physically lifts Bruenor's hand onto the final lever.
So Puent helps him make the final move.
Yeah. Bruenor pulls it, reactivates the full containment mechanism.
And the water elementals.
They surge back, flooding the pit, neutralizing the Primordial's immediate threat, effectively saving the entire region from that Payan Dreadring annihilation.
Okay, the day is saved. What about the loose ends? Dahlia and the vampire.
Right. Dahlia Sinfell gets her moment. She confronts the vampire Dorcre, and she destroys him using this specialized wooden spike hidden in her ring. Very clever.
A small personal act of vengeance amidst the chaos.
Perfectly fitting for her. And then Dorcre's remains are just washed away by the returning elemental water. A clean finish.
And Bruenor, he pulled the lever, saved the day.
Bruenor Battlehammer, having pulled the lever, dies moments later. Right there. The sources say he found peace. Not by reuniting with spirits in the way he'd hoped, maybe, but by fulfilling his life's mission, saving Gauntlgrym, saving the region. He died a king and a hero.
Wow, a heavy price. But the sources, they leave us with a sense of ambiguity too, don't they? Especially for Drizzt.
Oh, immensely ambiguous loss. Drizzt survives, yes.
Yeah.
But he's left with this renewed, crushing pain. For Bruenor, for Puent, and for Jarlaxle and Athrogate too.
Wait, Jarlaxle and Athrogate, what happened to them?
They're presumed lost in the chaos of the flooding and the mountain's collapse. Swept away. Drizzt doesn't know their fate for sure at this point.
So more loss for Drizzt.
Piled on top of everything else. And he's left with that haunting, unresolved question we talked about earlier. Was his relentless need for battle truly heroic? Or was it just an addiction? A coping mechanism for trauma he still hasn't processed? He survived, yes, but his internal war rages on, maybe even harder now.
So, okay, Let's synthesize this. We've mapped out this incredibly complex tapestry of loyalty, betrayal, sacrifice, all the way from the calculated fake death of a dwarf king to, well, the ultimate clash between a pit fiend and a legendary warrior powered by ancient beer.
Pretty much. And the immediate existential threat, the Primordial, is contained. That's a victory. But the wider geopolitical context, it remains absolutely volatile. The Netherese still crave resources, still plot from their flying fortresses.
And the tie-ins. They lost this round, but Sas Tam isn't going anywhere.
Exactly. They still plot their wider machinations for regional dominance. The Dreadring idea isn't dead, just delayed, maybe. And Neverwinter, though safe from the immediate eruption, is still rebuilding and fighting those ash zombies every single day. The great heroic deeds here, they've only bought a moment of quiet in what's still an undeniably darker world.
Which brings us back to Drizzt. Reflecting on him, having endured so much loss, so much external pressure, here's something for you to think about. Is his life, his story, defined by the noble goal he achieved here, saving Gauntlgrym, containing the Primordial? That's huge. Or is the real story the agonizing journey, the ongoing, painful reality of fighting just to numb the loss?
It's a deep question about heroism itself, isn't it?
It is. Consider this. Does the pursuit of perpetual conflict, even when it's technically done in the name of good, eventually corrupt the hero's conscience? Could it turn them into the very thing they always feared they might become? Something for you to mull over.